It's Kylie Davis here, and I'm delighted to be your host as we explore the brave new world where technology and real estate collide. I passionately believe we need to create and grow a sense of community between the innovators and real estate agents, and sharing our stories is a great way to do that. Now, the aim of each episode is to introduce listeners to a PropTech innovator who is pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and to explore the issues and challenges raised by the tech and how they can create amazing property experiences. So my guest in this episode is Mark Armstrong, CEO of RateMyAgent. And this is a fascinating story of how RateMyAgent has grown over the past 5 years, from being, of all things, an auction tipping contest website, to becoming a listed ASX company valued at $250 million and Australia's largest review site for real estate agents, and they're now launched in the US. Now, as Mark explains, 99% of the population pretty much Google everything before they purchase anything, and that includes real estate. And in this episode, Mark explains how RateMyAgent works to help agents become undisruptable by helping them amplify what we do well and share that with the world, regardless of the review platform that it occurs on. Mark Armstrong from RateMyAgent, welcome to the PropTech podcast.
Thanks, Kylie.
My pleasure. So, Mark, every time we have a new guest on the show, we ask them to do their elevator pitch. And having been through the Reach program, I reckon yours must be pretty tight. So bust it out.
I hope it's pretty tight. So RateMyAgent, we're a digital marketing business. So our role is to help agents collect, share, and promote reviews and customer feedback. And the reason we do that is, 90% or 95% of consumers nowadays are looking for online validation. They're looking for online reviews or online testimonials. And traditionally, agents haven't collected reviews very well or very efficiently. And in many cases, after they've collected them, they don't use them as a marketing tool. We see many agents who have reviews in photo albums in their office, or a card sitting on their desk. And when you don't get your reviews out into the marketplace, it's very hard for consumers to find them.
Yeah. So, look, how did RateMyAgent start? How long have you guys been going for?
We launched getting close to 5 years ago now, so June 2014.
Wow.
My background was in property advice. I'd been advising people through the market for 10 or 15 years. But we actually started as an auction tipping competition. A game called Property Tycoon.
That's where we met when I was at News.
Exactly. We pitched that to News and to a few different places. And essentially, for the listeners, it was a game like footy tipping. We would invite people to tip on properties that were going to auction each week. And if they got the tip right within a $50,000 range either side, they would win the tip, and the value of that property would be added to their virtual portfolio. And at the end of the season, there would be a cash prize. So that's where we started. And that's when Xavier and Ed, the two co-founders of the business, it was a really manual job to run that game.
Right.
And Ed jumped on board and said, hey, let's automate this and make it a lot easier. And through that automation, I still remember the day where Ed showed us a pie graph of Richmond in Victoria here, where the office is based. And he showed us a graph, and it showed us which agent had sold the most properties within Richmond. And Xavier and I looked at it and said, wow, can you break that down by agency? And a few clicks of the keyboard, and all of a sudden we saw market share for agency, and then we could see who was selling the highest average sale price. And we realised that the data we had collected had so much more power than just running an auction tipping competition. And within 24 hours, we had registered the name RateMyAgent. We had changed the whole business model over. We didn't bin Property Tycoon, but we just put that on the shelf. And from that was the moment that the penny dropped, that there was actually a better business here.
So instant pivot, basically.
Yeah, so and 5 years down the track, so far so good.
So far. So why are reviews so important? You were saying that, 99% of people are looking for online insights into who they're going to use?
Yeah, look, I think there's two ways to validating someone's experience or whether they're the right person. One is a numerical analysis. How many properties have you sold? What's your average sale price? How long have you been in real estate for? All those sorts of things are a numerical validation, but they don't actually put a story around the experience. And what a review does is a review really brings that person to life. It tells a story about that person. Mm-hmm. And it can bring out the personality of the person. And that's what consumers, forget real estate, it's across the board. There's an old saying that people will do business with people they like.
Yeah.
And just looking at, a lot of agents traditionally would walk into a listing saying, I'm the best because I've sold the most property in this suburb. Mm-hmm. But for consumers, they're like, well, yeah, okay. But what are you going to be like to work with? And with a review, you can say, look, I'm a really highly recommended agent. I actually sold the house across the road from you here, the Smith's house. And this is what they think about me and my performance.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're tying in not just the fact that you've got experience selling, but you're also bringing that story to life. And in many cases, you're bringing that story to life from people that the consumer already knows, their neighbours, people within their community, their school community, or their sporting community. So a review really ties all of those things together. I often tell the story of an agent in Victoria here who rang me once, this was a few years ago, and said, I just want to let you know I've been proven wrong. When you first launched RateMyAgent, I hated the platform. I couldn't see any value in it because I was a new agent. I didn't have that much experience. I hadn't sold too many properties. And my impression was you were just going to support the agents that sell the most. And he said, I've been proven wrong. I've just won a listing, $1 million listing in the Doncaster area. And after he signed the authority, he asked the woman, why did you choose me? And she said, well, I went to RateMyAgent and I read a whole lot of reviews, but one of your reviews jumped out at me. And it was the review that you had worked with a family where there'd been a death in the family, so that the husband had passed away. And the story that person wrote about their experience with you was what jumped out at me. So she chose that agent based on one single review because she related to that story. Mm-hmm. And that's the power of reviews. People can relate to the story that someone else is telling.
And it tells us how, it gives us insights into how emotional property buying and selling is too, doesn't it? And how powerful that story is in its ability to relate to that emotion.
Absolutely. I mean, if we think about when people transact real estate, someone's born, house is too small, we need to transact. Someone dies, house is too big. Someone leaves home, someone gets married, someone gets a new job and is transferred. I mean, selling real estate is actually an indicator of really, really big life-changing moments.
Yeah.
So real estate agents actually get involved at a period of time where it's not just the transaction of property. There's a whole lot of other things, good, bad, indifferent. There's a whole lot of other things going on around that transaction. And that's really the story that we want to bring to life.
Yeah. So, Mark, what's your business model around this? How does the business work?
Yeah, so I'll just quickly touch on how it doesn't work.
Okay.
We're not a lead. We're not. Well, I think it's important to it highlights who we are. We're not a lead generation business. We're not a transactional business. So, yep. Although we do deliver leads to agents, our revenue is not derived from the transaction. So what I mean by that is we don't take a cut of the agent's commission. That's their job to list and sell and market property. Our revenue model is based on, as I said earlier, we're a digital marketing business. So we build tools to help agents not only collect that feedback, but promote it through, Facebook and Google and through their own websites and through email marketing, and really, taking those reviews that were often just sitting in someone's inbox on their email, or sitting on one website where you had no control over them, but accessing those tools to really get those reviews and market them out into the broader marketplace. So agents can pay us, agents or agencies or brokerages can pay us a monthly subscription, and they can access varying tools depending on how many tools they want to access. So that's the main way we generate revenue. We're a SaaS business, we're a subscription business. And then we also access Google and Instagram and Facebook's ad networks. And within 3 clicks, agents can convert their reviews into digital ads. So we resell, essentially we resell Google and Facebook and Instagram ad networks, and we make money by clipping the ticket through that system.
Cool. And so how many agents do you have on the platform now? Like how big are you guys?
So in Australia, around about 80% of all Australian agents are on our platform or use our platform. Agents have a profile on our website, whether they like it or not, but real estate's a public transaction. So I guess in a sense we're very strong in the Australian market with 80% of agents using our platform. We currently collect a review for 1 in 3 properties sold across the country each month. And about a third of agents across Australia elect to take up some level of subscription and pay us a monthly subscription to access those marketing tools. So in the US, we're rapidly growing in the US. As we all know, there's over 1 million agents in the US. I guess the problem in that market is half of those agents are part-time agents. They don't really, they're Uber drivers and real estate agents. Yeah. So half the agents in the US don't actually transact over the course of a year. But at this stage, we've got more agents in the US using the platform. So around about 45,000 agents have engaged in the platform. And we're growing rapidly in the US market.
Oh, fantastic. And so has the response from agents, it's obviously changed over time in regards to the platform?
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. I think the cycle we've been through is when we first started, I won't say there was strong pushback, but there was certainly some pushback from some agents. And the pushback came from the idea that we don't think reviews are important. We've survived long enough. or a good idea. Well, we didn't get that so much. I mean, I think I think the psychology of the industry was we're a referral business. We don't need reviews. We get personal referrals, and we don't feel the need to collect written testimonials from our customers, because our customers go out there and talk about us and refer us business. Yep. So there was that psychology of asking for a review and getting a review. I think we saw, when we spoke to agents, only 10% of agents were actually only 10% of the transactions were actually getting customer feedback coming through when the agents asked for it. So that's where we started, and very quickly the agent psychology changed to actually, no, reviews are really important, because it's not what RateMyAgent wants, it's not what a real estate agent wants, it's what the consumer wants. And the consumer wants to be able to sit in bed at night and tap away on their keyboard and get this information. They don't want to have to call a friend or go to the local footy club and ask everyone, how did you go? They want to be able to do their research online. So very quickly the agents realised that actually reviews are important. And then it moved to the next step, that not whether we should or shouldn't collect them, but how should we collect them, and which review platform should we use? Should we use Google or Facebook or RateMyAgent or whoever it may be? And that's where our business evolved into, we're now an aggregator of reviews. Mm-hmm. So we can import reviews from all over the place. And we have a concept called everywhere reviews. So you get one review in RateMyAgent, and then we can syndicate that across the Google platform. We have a relationship with Domain now via our API, where our reviews flow through to Domain. They flow through to Facebook. They flow through to all the social networks. So the idea was to listen to the agents and pick up on the fact that their problem very quickly moved from are reviews good or bad, yep, to no, which review platform do I use? And that's what I think it's one of the things the agents really love is they're now understanding that if you get a review on RateMyAgent, you only need to request it once and receive it once, and then our platform pushes it across the web for them.
And so is that your differentiator between other review platforms like Google or other agent platforms out there, that you're actually sucking all of the reviews in and making them usable for agents?
Yeah, there's two major points of difference. I think that absolutely that's the first one. What we've said in the past is, if you get a review in a platform like Google, your review it's like being stuck in concrete.
Yeah.
You're relying. You've actually given control of that feedback to a third-party platform, and you're relying on that platform to drive traffic to that review, and you've lost control of that review. So we wanted to release that control. So by getting that review into RateMyAgent, really puts you in control, and now you can use it anywhere you like. You can use it in listing presentations and through social and through email and through Google, and it's releasing that. So there's no doubt that taking the review and really turning it into an asset, and that asset being controlled by the agent, is one of the major differentiators between us and other review platforms. But I think the other one that's really important and really quite unique to RateMyAgent across the globe is every review on RateMyAgent is linked to the transaction. So not only can you read the review, but you can see which property the review relates to. You can see when the property sold, how much the property sold for, where it is on a map. So it has a very high level of what we call a high level of verification, because it's linked to the transaction. And you avoid that problem. I was reading an article over the weekend about a dentist who had a review posted on Google, and it was a very negative review. And this dentist has actually had to take Google to court to find out who posted the review, because he's got no idea who posted it. He doesn't know whether it was a competitor. He doesn't know whether it's a genuine client. It's affecting his business. Google refuses to take it down. And he's stuck because he'd love to address the concern. He'd love to address the negative review, but he has no idea who posted it. And I think that's a major problem with reviews, is that, there's too much power gone to the reviewer. They can, we all call them keyboard warriors. They can sit there and they can have their opinion and write whatever they like to a large extent, but then there's no consequence that comes back to them if their review is defamatory or if their review affects the business. So by linking the review to the transaction, we don't allow anonymous reviews. The agent will always know who posted that review. And we only want to hear from actual customers, people that bought or sold with the agent. And again, that gives the agent more control. It means from a consumer point of view, the reviews are more relevant. We know that it's not a competitor or it's someone who's just felt like they've been hard done by. It's an actual customer that the agent's worked with.
The reviews can be good, bad or ugly, I guess.
Look, they can be.
Yeah. But the agent's got the control to respond to them.
Yeah, absolutely. The agent's got control to respond. Probably even more powerful, the agent's got the ability to pick up the phone, to call their customer, have a copy with them, work out what their issue is, address their concern. I mean, here's a great example of a negative review on our website. Someone posted a review that said wasn't very happy with the experience, and the crux of the negativity was when they picked up the keys and they got the remote control to the roller door batteries were flat in the remote control. And they said, what terrible customer service by the agent. And the agent said to us, what should we do? And I said, go to 7-Eleven, buy a couple of batteries, go over to the person's house, give them the batteries and say, is there anything else I can do? And that review got turned into a positive review because the agent responded to it in a really professional and positive way. And I think that's what by giving the agent that level of control so they can manage the process is really important.
Yeah, it's really true, isn't it? Sometimes, $5 on a couple of double A batteries can really be the difference. But if you've just spent $1.2 million on a house and you're trying to get your car into the garage and you've been moving all day, it can be the bit that tips you completely over the edge into craziness.
Exactly, and you don't know. It's not a question of right or wrong. You know, someone's feedback is not a binary right or wrong feedback. It's their feedback. It's their experience. And when you deal with different people, as the real estate agents do, you just have to be just continually offer a really high level of service. Don't have an opinion about the feedback, but just deal with the feedback. Sometimes the feedback is, we can all look at the feedback and say, wow, that's a bit unreasonable. But by taking a negative stance towards that feedback doesn't help anyone. Take a positive stance to it, address it, deal with it, and move on.
Let's just pause there for a moment and hear a quick word from our sponsors. If your business is growing quickly, you need to scale your team. Beepo is an Australian outsourcing company that specialises in helping real estate and technology businesses to grow. Outsourcing is not just about bringing on staff with a lower cost base. Beepo recruits and manages staff based in the Philippines who will become full-time members of your team. They will help you identify the key skill sets, the employment history and other attributes that you need from your employees and match your requirements with the right staff. Beepo will also help you to break down your structure, job descriptions, task management and to understand how having a virtual team fits into your organisation. Done properly, outsourcing can help you understand the internal processes of your business, drive your efficiency and provide you with a roadmap for growth. So talk to Beepo and scale your business for success. So Mark, it's obviously been a pretty hectic 5 years. What have been the key landmarks in your growth?
Look, I think some of the things that we've spoken about, some of the things that we did, I think linking. When we first launched RateMyAgent, we were just a simple review platform, and anyone could come in and write a review. But I think that if there was a genius to it, I think linking that review to the transaction and empowering the agents was really where we saw the website take off. Mm-hmm. By locking the system down in the early days and making RateMyAgent a review request platform only. Yep. Although we have opened the platform up now, but in the early days it was review request only, so agents had to log in and request a review. So I think those things was the thing that really ignited the business and really made it take off. And from there, we've just held on for the ride because it really just exploded, which was wonderful. I didn't know what organic growth meant until I was experiencing organic growth, and then you realise that organic growth is often something you don't have a hell of a lot of control over, in a good way. But it just really started to take off. So I think that the key for us was our independence was really important and really garnering that trust of the community. We're not here to fight against you. We're here to work with you. And being a real estate person myself, I could walk into a meeting with an agent and I knew exactly where they were coming from. Mm-hmm. I could relate to the experience. And we went to the market, in inverted commas, we called ourselves agent friendly. And I think that's still the case, but and then we changed that psychology and said, we support good real estate agents. Unashamedly, we support good real estate agents. Another agent said to me once, I don't like your platform. And I said, well, that's fine. I said, good agents love our platform. And then he started to suggest that, are you saying I'm not a good agent? I said, no, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just telling you that good agents do love our platform. And a few months later, he contacted me and said, I've actually had a closer look. I get what you're saying now. And now he's an avid user of the platform. So support, I think a lot of other businesses took a confrontational approach where, there's a binary, we win, you lose. Yep. I think a lot of other businesses attacked agent commission. We very clearly, right from the start, and we say this in the US now, and we're very committed to this, we are not here to put downward pressure on your commission.
Yep.
We're here to help support you. So I think for us, there's a whole overarching thing there, but it was really about taking a positive approach to the industry, engaging with the industry, listening to the industry, building a platform that supported good agents rather than a platform that competed with good agents.
Right, cool. So now you guys have listed on the stock exchange, haven't you?
We have, yeah. So about 18 months ago.
How big a decision was that?
Look, I think for us it was very organic for us. It wasn't a major decision.
Mm-hmm.
I think, at some stage of the process, you need to raise capital, and you can go to VCs and the private market, or you can go to the public markets. There's pros and cons on both sides. There's no perfect solution to that. But for us, we just really wanted to see, there were three things that we wanted to tick off before we would consider a public listing. The first one was we wanted to test our business model. Mm-hmm. We were the first to go and the only ones to go to market with a model that said, we won't touch your commission.
Yep.
We're going to find another way to derive revenue. And, really, in the early days, we didn't know whether that was going to work. We didn't know whether that was going to resonate. So we wanted to test that first. So we built subscriptions and wanted to see whether people would use them. The second one was, off the back of that, we wanted to see whether we could reach profitability in the Australian market. It's well and good selling a product, but if you can't reach profitability, then, the business, there's so many businesses out there. Look at Uber, is it ever going to be profitable? So we wanted to build a really strong business off a strong foundation. So we wanted to make sure that we were profitable. And before we listed on the stock exchange, we had 2 or 3 quarters of cash flow positive profitability. And so for us, that was a tick. And the third one was we wanted to see whether our philosophy and our business actually resonated in an external market, an international market. So we went to the US, and very quickly we could see that actually RateMyAgent has a really strong application within the US market. So for us, it was a natural progression. I don't think that we ever sort of, it wasn't the goal or the objective to IPO. It was just the goal to continually grow the business. And it's the same thing today, Where are we now? We're in the US. Our role now is to make sure we consolidate that market. We'll probably move into Canada next and possibly the Asian markets. But it's all very organic, and it's about opportunity rather than trying to force an agenda. We're a business that just continually looks at the into the distance. We look at opportunities, we evaluate opportunities, and we make an informed decision about whether we should pursue or not pursue that opportunity. So for us, there was an opportunity. David Williams, the chairman, had a lot of experience in taking businesses through to IPO. There wasn't a huge amount of workload from a management point of view that allowed us to continue to focus on our business. So it was a very organic process.
Oh, cool. So I've got so many questions around this. So what's your market cap at the moment?
It's had a good few weeks. I think it's sitting around about 250 million.
Cool.
So the share price is sitting around about 60 to 65 cents at the moment. So, and there's still, we suspect there's still a long way to go.
Right, but it's not bad for 5 years' work.
It's not bad.
That'll do. Yeah, it'll do. So here's my next question, Mark. Why does a well-funded company on the US stock exchange need to take part in an accelerator like the Second Century Ventures Reach program? Why not just go straight in? Look,
I don't think there's one singular way to attack a market. We certainly did just move straight into the US market, and we started to grow in the US in organically in the same way we did in Australia. But I think, as we all understand, real estate is a relationship business. My father taught me, he or she who builds the most relationships wins. Mm-hmm. It's not about money. Money is a byproduct of success. Relationships is really where it's at. So, when we had the opportunity to essentially partner with a membership program, with a membership base of 1.3 million agents, which is what the National Association of Realtors has, it's a very, very, again, a very organic and logical step to build a relationship with the biggest trade organisation on the planet.
Yeah.
So again, we didn't think of it as being a big decision. We just saw it as being a very logical decision. And that relationship with Reach and the guys there, Dave and Tyler, is a wonderful relationship for us. It's a very trusting, very supportive relationship, and very happy we did it.
Yeah, fantastic. But the question I've got too is that this whole idea of reviews for real estate agents, that it sort of originated out of the US. So why do US agents need an Australian review site in their market, or even another one? Because I think Phil Kells and Jeff Turner did Real Satisfied originally.
Yeah, that's right, and we have a great relationship with Jeff and Phil. G'day, Jeff and Phil, if you're listening.
Hello, should be a shout out to the boys.
That's right. And I think it's a really good question, because I think before I met with Jeff and Phil, I think we probably had the same impression that we saw. There was potential that a company like Real Satisfied was a competitor to RateMyAgent. But when we sat down and we had a beer and we spoke about where we all sat in the marketplace, we actually saw that they were complementary. And the reason being is that Real Satisfied is a platform that collects reviews. But it's not a platform that really takes that next step of promoting reviews. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have integrations and have the tools that RateMyAgent has. Google's very similar. Google's a platform that collects reviews. But they don't have those tools as the promotional tools. So after a few discussions with Phil and Jeff, we decided that, RateMyAgent really starts where Real Satisfied finishes. So we could we ingest Real Satisfied reviews into our system. So anyone who has Real Satisfied reviews can put their vanity key into RateMyAgent, and their Real Satisfied reviews will be imported into our system. We're now looking at the process of taking the next step of linking those reviews to the transaction, because Real Satisfied reviews aren't linked to the transaction from a front end, from a consumer point of view. Mm-hmm. So we can turn a Real Satisfied review into a really powerful, or we can amplify the value of that review by linking it to the transaction. And now we've got access to RateMyAgent marketing reports and our social media manager and our ad networks. So I think that for us it was about as a business, we don't make money from collecting reviews. So Real Satisfied make money from collecting reviews, and the other one is Testimonial Tree makes money from collecting reviews. Our review platform is free, so we're not competing with their market. We're happy to ingest their reviews into our system, because it's the next step, which is really what RateMyAgent does very well. Yeah. And other platforms, for whatever reason, that wasn't their business model. Other platforms decided we focus just on one industry, the real estate industry. Other review platforms try and be, everyone, what's it called? Trustpilot. A great review platform, but it's not specific to real estate agents. No. They would never link their review to a transaction. They're trying to be a review platform for everyone, whereas we're just building the tools specifically for agents. And as I said, linking that review to the transaction is the really unique thing that we've done.
And I guess there's a real strength in that too, isn't there? Because it's not just about as an agent sending out the request for your own review, because often as a consumer you get that request and it's like, oh, they just want me to write something nice about them because we've just transacted. But if you're able to pull if the consumer can review it wherever they're comfortable reviewing it, but the agent can still pull it in and get the value out of it, that's like a win-win for everybody.
100%. We shouldn't be competing. We should never be asking the consumer to do the same thing multiple times.
Yeah.
It's just a really inefficient market.
Yep.
So I guess we saw a very inefficient market and made it, and still are making it,
Let's just
much more efficient.
pause there for a moment and hear a quick word from our sponsors. As a real estate agent, you know you need to be doing more content marketing. But creating posts for social media, creating videos and reports is hard work, lots of hard work, and it takes time. So that's why you need HomePrezo. If you're a typical agent posting 1 or 2 social media posts a week, HomePrezo can save you between 75 to 100 hours a year. How many more properties could you sell if you had that time back? HomePrezo can help you create engaging, informative videos about how the property market in your local suburb is performing. Plus, it makes creating suburb reports, rental videos for landlords, and social media infographics an absolute piece of cake. If you can type in a suburb or type an address, you can create a Prezo using HomePrezo in just a few minutes. Listeners to the PropTech podcast receive a 14-day free trial. Now that's twice as long as the normal free trial. So go to homeprezo.com.au and click the sign up button and use the code PropTech to get your extended free trial. Or click the link in our show notes. So has your move with Reach, going into the Reach program over in the US, has that been this move? Is this been a move away, Mark, from organic growth to deliberate growth, or what's your future hold?
Look, I just think it's one part. It's one iron in the fire. Mm-hmm. We have a great relationship with Reach and are building great relationships there. But we've now integrated with some of the biggest MLSs in the US market. We have 450 or almost 500,000 agents connected to our platform via the MLSs. So that's another relationship that we're really fostering. Mm-hmm. We have a wonderful emerging relationship with Inman and the Inman Group. Molly McKinley and Laurie Davis and Paula, all joining our business in the last 3 months or so, and building that strong relationship within that agent community through Inman.
Yep, and big shout out to the girls.
Again, it comes back to that idea that real estate is a relationship business. Yeah. And I think if there's one thing that RateMyAgent is really proud of, it's the relationships that we build and we maintain. So I don't think there's any great... I mean, if you look back in Australia, what we did, it was very similar. We started to build great relationships with the larger corporate entities. We integrated, and we integrate now with My Desktop and Paw Plus and Box and Dice, and everything we did was about, building that trusting relationship with the industry. So NAR is no different to that sort of strategy. It's building the relationship with the industry.
Yeah, and so where do you see? What's in the future for reviews? Are they going to change? How more relevant are they going to be? What's your view what's your crystal ball tell you about that?
Yeah, look, I think the review, and what I don't know if I should say this, but I'll say we're still in the Wild West when it comes to reviews. Mm-hmm. The authenticity of them is, I read a review on Google a little while ago that was, I won't mention the agency name, but it essentially said, never use this agency because I was driving in my car and a car that was branded with that company name cut me off in the traffic. And that was literally...
You were being watched all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's irrelevant. That has a negative impact on the business. Yeah. But it actually adds no value to the consumer who's reading it. So I think what we are going, and there's lots of, I think it was TripAdvisor that was recently fined, but in Australia for putting up fraudulent claims about their reviews. Uh-huh. As I said, the dentist, I read the article about the dentist who had a negative review on Google. So I think what's going to happen is reviews have been great. The pendulum has swung way over in favour of the person writing the review. And I think what we're going to see happen is the pendulum will come back and it will equalise where there's a balanced approach where the person who's receiving the review, has an equal amount of power as the person who posted the review. Because at the moment, the person who posted the review can do that with complete anonymity. So we have no idea who they are. They can write whatever they like, and the person receiving the review is forced to go down through legal channels, very expensive legal channels, to try and address that. So I think we've just got to see. I think we will see. The laws will catch up. The laws always lag.
Yep.
The laws will catch up. People writing reviews, we have to take away, and this is across society. Forget reviews, people.
The whole keyboard warrior, trolling.
Yeah, I mean, poor sports people get absolutely, smashed by, when they play a game of football and they miss the goal.
Yeah.
I think accountability is what will come into the space, and as I said, the laws will catch up. And it's something we've always been passionate about, finding that balance between, the person writing the review and giving them a voice, but also being fair and balanced to the person receiving the review to give them some recourse to address that negative or positive feedback, whatever it may be.
Do you think that the way that we read or use reviews as consumers is likely to become a little bit more mature too? I know that when I read reviews, I'll often, when I'm looking at a new business that I haven't used before, I'll look at the really good reviews, but then I'll also look at some of the terrible reviews to see if they've got any, but I'll always read them to see what those people were complaining about and to see how they handled them. And then I often also click onto that person's review, if it's Google, to see what else they reviewed, to see if they're a regular troller or not, because I think it sometimes gives you a really good perspective on the business and how they handle negativity, which can actually work in the business's favour sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's spot on. I think consumers are being educated, and they're going through a self-education of how to interpret a review. A really good example of this, my wife and I went to Thailand a couple of years ago, and we were looking to book a resort, and we did the same thing. We clicked on the negative reviews, and there wasn't many, but one of them said, really terrible service at this resort. I was in my room, I ordered a pool towel, and it took 2 hours for the pool towel to get to my room. And so from mine and my wife's point of view, we just thought, grow up.
Yeah, why wouldn't you walk to the pool yourself?
Get a pool, you know what I mean? So we took the interpretation that guy was an idiot.
Yeah.
So we didn't place any emphasis on that review. And I think that is what's happening. And the other thing is that it's also reading, I think as you mentioned, reading the response, because the data very clearly shows that in the eyes of a consumer, it's not the negative review that really forms their opinion. It's the response to the negative review that really crystallises their opinion. And if you get a negative review and you respond to it in a very professional way, then the consumer thinks, everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Consumers don't expect perfection. And there's that old saying, it's not the mistakes we make, it's how we deal with the mistakes we make. And I think a negative review gives you the opportunity to put your hand up and say, you know what, I probably could have done better there, but this is how I'm going to resolve the situation and move on. And consumers love to see that response.
So, Mark, you're in the US. You're connected to all the cool kids, Molly and Lauren and everyone from Inman. What does the next 5 years hold for real estate generally? What's your reading of the tea leaves?
Yeah, it's a good question and something I've been involved in real estate for a long time. I actually think it's already happening, and this will be more pronounced. We're going to go into a very clear two-tiered real estate market. The lower tier, the iBuyers, the commission-free models, I know Purplebricks didn't work out, but that low-touch, low-service but cheap model, which will tend to be, for cheaper real estate. You tend to find that, real estate with a lower value has less volatility in competition. Its price points, it tends to be more, very clear that there's not 20 people looking to buy that sort of property. So the value provided by the agent can sometimes be, less noticeable, and so consumers, property owners who have that type of real estate will be more inclined to go to an iBuyer business model in the US, or to go to a Purplebricks, type of business model, or to, the sell your own home business model where we give you all your tools and you put it up online yourself and you negotiate it. So I think there's a market for that type of business, but it's at the bottom end of the market. And then you'll have that high touch, high service, top end of the business of the market. And those agents will always, we've developed a concept called the undisruptible agent. An undisruptible agent is that person that offers a very high quality of service, that builds really strong relationships, and adds enormous value. $1 million property, the difference between a good agent and a poor agent, it can be tens of thousands of dollars, and in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars. And really sort of, being able to negotiate at that sort of level. So I think we'll see, particularly in places like the US, we will see a rationalisation of the number of agents. I don't think we'll see 1.3 million agents in the US forever. I think we'll see a strong consolidation at that top end of really good real estate agents who offer a really high level of service to people who, in most cases, the value of the property will be higher. And I think we'll see, that emerging market of the iBuyer market, the self-serve market, it will find its feet, but it'll only be in particular markets and particular price points. So we see it as, for good agents, we see a really positive outlook. If you're a good agent and you offer a great level of service and you get great customer feedback, you're really primed and in a perfect position to capitalise on that part of the market.
Very cool. Very cool. I love that idea that, yes, we're moving in kind of that's starting to separate out, as opposed to trying to be all things to all people with all the tech for all the properties. That it really does make no sense for us to try and only be one thing.
If you look at just to keep going on that, if you look at why Purplebricks failed, they were never going to get market share in the Bondi market in Sydney or the South Yarra market in Melbourne. They're very high touch markets where people have got long-standing existing relationships and that's the sort of service they want. So Purplebricks was never going to find market share in those markets. It was always going to be very hard to find market share in those markets. So it's really breaking the two markets apart.
Fantastic. So Mark, have you got some awards coming up?
We do. So our Agent of the Year awards are being announced this Thursday the 20th of Feb. It's the night of nights for real estate agents.
Fabulous. Well, look, thank you it's been really fascinating to hear about the Rate My Agent story. Thank you. I've learned a lot that I didn't actually know about how you guys operate, and I love that idea of the person with the best and the most relationships wins. I think that's extraordinarily powerful in this day and age. So, Mark Armstrong, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
And good luck in the US.
Thank you very much.
So that was Mark Armstrong, CEO of Rate My Agent. And I don't know about you, but I've got a whole new appreciation now for the value of reviews in real estate, but also an understanding a little bit of how poorly so many of us use them and how much potential there is out there for us to demonstrate to the broader public that the real estate industry is changing and delivering much better service. So I love Mark's comment that in real estate, the person with the most relationships wins. We're seeing that more and more, this movement away from the transaction and towards the personal. And amplifying your reviews is a great way to effectively scale your personal recommendations. And I think the fact that a company as big and successful as Rate My Agent using the NAR Reach program to launch in the US is fascinating. Again, tied to the Rate My Agent view about the value of relationships. So I love that they're consistent in that. And so I wish them all the best in the US, but from everything I hear, they're already going gangbusters. Now, if you have enjoyed this episode of the PropTech Podcast, we would love you to tell your friends or drop me a line, either via email, LinkedIn, or on our Facebook page. And you can follow this podcast on Spotify, Apple iTunes, and Google Podcasts. I'd love to thank my support, the very wonderful Charlie Hollins, who is the best, and the fabulous Jill Escudero, and our sponsors, Beepo, making outsourcing easy, and Home Prezzo. Thanks, Nate, turning data into amazing marketing content. So thanks everyone. Until next week, keep on prop teching.